All right, so hey, the brain, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and do eyeball, okay? So when you get the brains out, brains are in these containers right here, and when you're done with them, we'll just put them back into these containers. And none of these brains have been dissected that I can see. So we'll take a look at the whole brain, and then we'll take a look at a sagittal section of the brain. Okay. So now, if you've had anatomy already, you're going to get a lot more structures in anatomy than you are in this class. Okay, we're just going to go over some of the basic structures on the brain. Instead of learning 12 cranial nerves, you guys are going to look at 4 cranial nerves. Okay, and one of the big things is when you are looking for the cranial nerves, you got to be careful, because when you take off the outer covering, the dura mater, you can potentially rip a lot of the actual nerves themselves. Okay? So when you take a look at the brain itself, there are 3 layers, three different layers to the covering of the brain. Okay? And these are referred to as the meninges. Okay? The outermost layer, the thickest layer, right, is called the dura mater. And mater is spelled M-A-T-E-R. All right? And so the dura mater is oftentimes, it's actually adhered to the brain case. All right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this. And as I cut this, what you're going to see inside now is the innermost layer. The middle layer is called the arachnoid layer, and the arachnoid layer oftentimes is stuck right here on the inside of the dura mater. Okay, and you can see on the brain itself, okay, the pia mater is the innermost layer, and let me see if I can get this pia mater right. You see how the it's really glistening up there. Okay. See how I got the probe, and I can't lift the probe up. I don't know if you guys can see. Yeah. See how I have that tissue right there? That's the pia mater. Okay? So the pia mater is directly on the brain itself. Okay? So there's 3 layers. So the first thing you want to know is that there's 3 coverings for the brain, 3 layers of the covering. Okay? The outermost is the dura mater. Okay? The innermost layer is right on the surface of the brain itself. That's the pia mater that I'm showing you. And what's in between the dura mater and the pia mater is the arachnoid layer. Okay? And the arachnoid layer is basically oftentimes adhered to the inside of the undersurface of the dura mater. Right? Alright. So I'm going to take this off. So as I take the dura mater off, one of the things that you want to be careful with is when you get down towards the bottom side, okay, there is the, in addition to the cranial nerves, the other thing that you have down here, and I'll show you right here, is this structure right here. That's the pituitary gland. Okay? So you can see, here's the pituitary gland. This one in the sheep is about the size of an edamame. So the next time you're at a Japanese restaurant and you're having edamame, you know, as your little appetizer, right? It's the pituitary gland. Okay? And remember, that's the major hormone releasing gland, right? It produces 7, stores 9, and releases 9 of them. Right? Two of the hormones are actually produced in the hypothalamus of the brain. Okay? So carefully take this stuff off. And there are brain diagrams in the reading room for you guys. Did everybody get the eyeball that I sent you guys yesterday? Yeah. And then I know a lot of you guys want to go to med school, all right? And so there was I sent you guys that article out of U.S. News, right, about the taking the MCAT. So, and then for like Andrew and for Stephanie, you know, the DAT that you guys take. same general concept with that. Oh, there's no brain diagrams? Oh. Alright, well then I will get you guys a brain diagram. Sorry, I thought we had brain diagrams up there. Or at least we used to. Alright, so as I open up the brain, or as I take the dura mater off, right, one of the first things that you'll see is when we're first developing, right, around the 4th week of gestation, your 3 primary brain ossicles start to form. Okay? Your forebrain, your midbrain, and your hindbrain. Okay? And so what I have listed up on the board right there, you will see telencephalon, diencephalon, mesencephalon, metencephalon, and myelencephalon. Those are the 5 brain ossicles. Right? So at the end of week 5 of gestation, those are the 5 that you're going to see. Those 5 will continue to differentiate, and if you look on the left-hand side, you can see where the major structures are. So you see cerebrum, right, is in the region that's called the telencephalon. So as I'm holding this brain right here, here is the cerebrum. Right? This is the big, bulky portion of the brain. And this is further subdivided into various lobes and so forth. Yeah. The one on the left looks, is that pretty clear? Is there any
I don't think
how's that look? Not as good? Okay. Alright. Okay. Alright, so right here we're looking at the cerebrum. This region is the telencephalon. Okay. So on a lap practical, a pin may be stuck right here. So you may have a pin that's stuck here. One question could ask you, for example, name the brain region, or give the brain region. Another question I could ask you on this is name the portion of the brain, right? So name the brain region, you would want to write telencephalon. Name the part of the brain, right? Cerebrum. Right? All right. So that's kind of generally what we're looking at right there. Right? And so this is separated into 2 hemispheres. So you have this little fissure right here that separates them. Okay. And as you dissect down, all I'm doing is just blunt dissecting. And then as you dissect down, you can see this structure right here. All right? This structure right here allows each hemisphere to communicate. Right? So this is right here, the corpus callosum. Now, if you notice on the cerebrum, right, you can see how there's raised portions and there's portions that are little grooves. Right? And so one of the things that you also want to be able, there's specific names for each one of these, and the little groove portion, right, is a sulcus. The raised portion is the gyrus. Right? So we have 2 hemispheres to the cerebrum, made up of different brain regions, which you guys will learn more about when you get to anatomy. Okay? And on each cerebral hemisphere, what you basically see is the raised portion is the gyrus. The portion that you see where it dips down in here, this is the sulcus, this little groove down here. And what separates the 2 hemispheres is this longitudinal sulcus. Okay? So this is this longitudinal sulcus right here. Okay. All right. Now I want to take off the rest of this covering. Thank you. every now and then what you'll find on here is like a piece of the brain case. So you may find bone on here as well. I'm trying to be careful so I don't jack up some of these nerves. So I can still show you. And see if I can keep that pituitary gland intact right there. Still on there. All right, so we just lost the biggest nerve, the trigeminal nerve. On there. There we go. Everybody feel pretty comfortable so far? So when you're looking at the brain right here, okay? So here's this ladder. Here's this dorsal view of this, and so you can see the two cerebral hemispheres. Right? The other big structure that you see back here, this back here is the cerebellum. Right? So here's the cerebellum. The cerebellum is in the metencephalon, so it's in the rear portion of the brain. All right. Alright. Now, I'm going to rotate this guy over here. So from here, you can see here's the cerebrum, here's the cerebellum. Okay. This is the spinal cord. This portion that you see right here, this is the medulla oblongata. Okay. The medulla oblongata is in the myelencephalon. Okay. So here is the cerebrum, right here. Here's the cerebellum. Below the cerebellum, right, this is the pons. So, take a look at the pons. Here's the pons right here. Right. So this is a relay center. Part of our respiratory centers are located here in the pons. So as we look at the brain from this ventral view, these two bulbs that you see up here, these are the olfactory bulbs. So this is one of the cranial nerves that you guys want to know. Right, these are bulbs. The nerves actually come off these bulbs. Right? All right. This right here are the optic nerves. This is your second cranial nerve that you guys want to know. All right, so here's the optic. So you can see where the optic nerve, you can see the stalk where it's headed out towards an eye. Here's another one that's headed out towards another eye. And here's where they cross. This is the optic chiasma. Now, pituitary gland. The trigeminal nerve is a big nerve. And that's this big nerve right here that was partially taken off. And then there's a bunch of other little nerves on here. That one, those got taken off also. So there's a couple little nerves right here. Usually the other one that we have you learn is number 8. That's auditory, or now they're oftentimes referring to it as the vestibular cochlear nerve. And that one usually sits right about here, and oftentimes it does get taken off. So as you can see from the brain itself, right, this is how we get the brain, so part of it's already ripped. Okay, so I'll see if I can find one that has it still intact, and then if I do, I'll definitely show you guys that one. Okay, so right now...
What was the first nerve with the bulbs?
Olfactory. Olfactory, optic, and then the big old trigeminal. Right here. The trigeminal has a lot of effect with your faces. So one of the muscles that you use for chewing, right, for mastication, is innervated. Those muscles are innervated by this particular nerve right there.
Is it just one, or should be one on each side?
One on each side, yeah. So the other one's right here. Oh, the other one's right here. All right. Does everybody feel pretty comfortable with this? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a sagittal section of this brain. I'm just going to go right down the center. No, we'll wait for those ladies right there. Once it goes into the autoclave, it's 15 minutes in the autoclave, and then we have to allow it to cool for the pressure and temperature to come down before we can handle it. So once it goes in, figure about an hour before you can actually pour the plates. Okay. And you guys need to change the pH. And after I'm done with this, I will grab some. You guys are just dropping the pH, right?
We actually have to range for the pH.
Or 3 of them? Okay. So you need some.
This one, the pH, I think it's one, either 7 or 4.
Okay. Sure. Not a problem. Alright. So here's the sagittal section of the brain right here. Okay. Now, again, this portion of the brain, here's the telencephalon, which includes the cerebrum. Okay. What I showed you earlier when I separated the longitudinal sulcus is this portion right here. This is the thank you. Brain pointer right there. Good to spit it out. All right. So that's the corpus callosum right here. Now you see this opening right here. This is one of the areas in which your cerebrospinal fluid is circulating. All right. This is one of the lateral ventricles. So there are 4 ventricles in the brain. This is ventricle 1. The one on the opposite side will be ventricle number 2. So these are the 2 lateral ventricles in here. Okay. All right. This area right here is the thalamus. So this is the so this region right here, what we're looking at, this region and down over to here, this area is in the diencephalon. Okay? So this is the thalamus, and oftentimes if you cut it right, what you can oftentimes see is the intermediate mass, or the massa intermedia. And you'll see the massa intermedia as a little circle within this larger mass right here. Okay? As we follow this down, underneath the thalamus, okay, when we get down to this region, here's where you're entering into the third ventricle. Okay? And as we continue back on this, we're going to enter into an area called the cerebral aqueduct. So starting about right here, sliding right down over here, here is the cerebral aqueduct. So this comes around, here's the third ventricle, here's the cerebral aqueduct. And when we get underneath the cerebellum, here is the fourth ventricle. So we have our lateral ventricle. This is one of our lateral ventricles. The other one is right here. All right, so here are our 2 lateral ventricles, so ventricles 1 and 2. Ventricles 3. And 3 is right here underneath the thalamus. Okay. The cerebral aqueduct allows the fluid, the cerebrospinal fluid, to continue down over here to the fourth ventricle underneath the cerebellum. Okay. Now, as you take a look at the cerebellum, you can see the white tracts over here. Right. So the white tracts, these are the myelinated, myelinated neurons that you're looking at, and then you got white matter, gray matter. Okay. All right. So, thalamus, the hypothalamus is right here, okay. And here is the pituitary gland, right here. There's a little stalk that connects the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. That's called the infundibulum. Okay, it's a short little stalk. It always gets torn off. So if you're doing anything, you're looking at the pituitary gland, that's going to get torn off on there. Okay.
Could you show the hypothalamus one more time?
So here's the thalamus, right?
The big
Right
one?
here.
Okay.
The hypothalamus is this portion right here.
Very
Okay. It's this bottom portion. So Now, what else do we need to cover on here?
Can you show the ventricles again?
Ventricles, yeah.
Like which ones are which?
So this is one of the lateral ventricles here.
Is that number one?
Number one, number two. Right. So it's just below the corpus callosum. So you have the thalamus, follow the thalamus around. Underneath the thalamus, right here is the third ventricle. Here is the cerebral aqueduct, right here, and then here is the fourth ventricle right underneath the cerebellum.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So the other component that's part of the metencephalon with the cerebellum is the pons. And that's right here. So you can see this little raised portion from the undersurface. Now the one thing I haven't showed you guys yet is the corpora quadrigemina. Okay? This is in the mesencephalon. And so, let me take this brain over here.